In this video, I'll be giving you the 5-step checklist that you can apply straight into your Meta account over the course of the next 30 minutes completely for free, and I guarantee it will improve the performance of your ads. Why should you even listen to me? Well, it's crazy to even say it, but I've completed over 1,000 audits of Meta ad accounts over the course of the last 5 years, ranging from accounts spending $3,000 a month all the way up to accounts spending $1 million per month on Meta. And so I've seen the entire spectrum. I've seen massive accounts and audited them, provided feedback, as well as entry-level beginner accounts. In fact, I used to run my own stores 4 to 5 years ago where I was spending anywhere from $3,000 to $30,000 a month. So I myself also have experience running these accounts with my own money. Now, any kind of 5-step checklist or 10-step checklist or audits accounts is usually incredibly generic and not helpful, and it's just basic, simple settings that everyone's already doing. In this video, I'll be giving you stuff that no one's doing. I'll try to go outside the bounds of the regular advice and what you're probably already doing anyway, and point out 5 things that you're likely missing on. I hope that at least 3 of these you're not doing right now. You can go and apply it and immediately see better performance. Step number 1, attribution windows. Go into your account, click on columns, click on customize columns, add in attribution setting. You want to look at what attribution setting you're using on campaigns. For 97% of the people watching this, you want to be using just 7-day click. You do not want view-through conversions here. The reason for that is that view-through conversions will scoop up a bunch of conversions and claim them within the campaign, within the ad set, within the ad, when the campaign really didn't drive that conversion. Now, it might have driven some of them, but the reality is if someone sees an ad, doesn't click or interact in any way, and then buys 24 hours later, probably wasn't because of that ad, and was probably because you sent them an email, or because you served them a Google ad, which generated the top of funnel awareness, which they eventually went and converted on. Now, did it play a part? Potentially, but view-through conversions end up doing way more damage than good in 99% of accounts, where it just way overinflates attribution and says Meta's doing way better than it actually is. It then ends up obfuscating decision-making at a campaign and an ad set level, where you look at a specific ad set, it seems to be doing well compared to another one, but once you take out the view-through conversions, it's actually the opposite story. And so you're misallocating budget because you don't have clarity over the actual click-through conversions. So this is step number 1. Check what attribution setting you are using. Make sure you're using 7-day click. Step number 2. Audience segments. Make sure that you have audience segments set up correctly so that you can click on the breakdown button here, and you can then go and click audience segments, and you can see what are all your metrics across new audiences, engaged audiences, and existing customers. You want that breakdown just for the exact same reason as why you want to do 7-day click attribution, because once you break down to that level, you will be able to discern, are my campaigns just heavily over attributing because of existing customer retargeting? Or are they genuinely going and prospecting new audiences and generating conversions on new audiences? That kind of data is absolutely critical for any decision-making on increasing budgets forward in time. So you want to make sure you have that set up within your business settings. Now, the next question is, are those audiences actually set up correctly? And the first question here, and this is going to be a tip that hopefully 99% of people watching this video have never heard before, is are you using a Klaviyo audience sync? Might be a good thing, right? In fact, Klaviyo has such large market share, particularly within the Australian region, that almost everyone's using Klaviyo. And so most people should be using the sync option there, where you sync the audience so it's automatically feeding into Meta, and you have a consistently updating audience of your newest customers that you can go and exclude or that you can go and segment. Massive mistake. It's a massive mistake because you should be cleaning your list on Klaviyo, particularly because they just increased prices a couple of weeks ago. If you're not cleaning your list, go do that. That's something you definitely should be doing. And so assuming that you are doing that, well, that Klaviyo audience sync is based on activated users. And so those deactivated or deleted users don't actually sync through. And we've seen this in accounts consistently over the course of the last few weeks, where we had this hypothesis and we thought, well, these deactivated users probably aren't syncing through. So we did a custom upload of the Shopify customer database, and all of the metrics changed. New customer revenue went up overnight. And so it shows that you actually need to make sure that your Shopify customer list is being imported into your custom segments, not an automatic Klaviyo sync. Now, if you're in the US or Canada, you can do that automatically with the native app within Shopify called, I believe it's Audiences, and it will automatically sync those audiences. Unfortunately, it's only available within the US and Canada, which isn't really helpful for anyone outside of those regions. So if you're outside of those regions, really annoying. You have to do manual uploads consistently. And so I would recommend continuing to do those manual uploads consistently, unless you have some kind of API integration that can obviously solve for that issue. But it's not the end of the world. It doesn't really take that long. Next is, how are you defining new or engaged? This is an interesting one because we run quite a few accounts where we will classify existing customers as website visitors. Seems crazy, right? Like it goes against the whole idea here. But the reason why we do that is because we want to exclude existing website visitors from Advantage Plus campaigns, because Advantage Plus campaigns have a tendency to over-target middle of funnel. And we want to control that in some of our specific accounts where that tends to be what ends up eroding our ability to push more volume of spend through that account. And so look at your account specifically and ask yourself the question, are your Advantage Plus campaigns heavily going after middle of funnel? Do we want to suppress that? And if we do want to suppress that, you would need to do that by having your website visitors classified as an existing customer rather than just engaged. And then lastly, are you doing audience exclusions on cold campaigns? Really, really critical, particularly if you have high returning customer rates or you've existed for a long time, so your daily percentage of sales to returning customers is high. You need to do heavy audience exclusions, or Meta will just prioritize warm audiences and you will find it hard to scale cold campaigns. And that is only possible in Advantage Plus with correct audience segment setup, and in your other cold targeting campaigns with proper audiences set up within the account that you can then go and apply. Step number 3 is, does the account currently have a testing methodology in place? So are there any tests being run at all on a consistent basis? And it would blow your mind how many accounts I look at spending between $3,000 to $25,000 a month that have literally no tests running ever. Mind-blowing. And that's the reason why they're not spending $100,000 a month. Like any account that I see spending $100K or more, they have a testing framework in place. Is it the best testing framework? Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But any business doing sub $25K a month, normally this is the reason why, or they don't have product market fit. They're really like the two big ones. And so are there tests being run at all on a consistent basis? Now, our recommended structure there is using an ABO with tests running at the ad set level with a maximum of 3 to 5 ads within each ad set. But what account structure is being used for the tests? Another really important one. And so this is where you can build your own methodology around how you best believe tests should be introduced into a Meta ad account. I am confident that I can argue against almost any structure outside of ours. That's why we use ours. If I had a better one, I would go and use it. So if anyone has a proposal on a better testing structure, then please let me know. But some red flags here is that I would not use Advantage Plus campaigns as a testing structure. Advantage Plus campaigns will typically undervalue new assets introduced into them and not weight new spend into them unless they've pre-existed in the account before. And so just dumping new ads into one Advantage Plus, look, there's accounts I've seen that it's worked for. And so these things aren't like general rules that apply to every account. But as a generalization, it's not the greatest practice because you end up with an Advantage Plus campaign with hundreds, if not thousands of ads within it. And you will introduce a ton of ads that will just never even get $1 of spend. Now, I do think that Meta's Bayesian probability model of being able to distribute spend at an ad level is really good. And so I'm not saying that you should go and just have ad sets with one ad in them and you should force $100 in spend into each ad. I think that's going over the top and you're not actually leveraging the machine learning as much as you could. And the algorithms who are much better at determining ad success probability than you are. But I also don't believe in the complete other direction where you just dump 1,000 ads into an ad set and hope for the best. And so you have to kind of find this middle ground of, well, we're gonna leverage the algorithm's ability to pick winners, but we also want to be able to segment these out to 5 ad chunks so that we at least give enough budget distribution between 5 ads for it to have an increased probability of selecting a winner. What KPIs are being used to determine success? This is a really important one. I'm going to give you a KPI that you've probably not even thought about before, which is that a KPI for success is, did Meta distribute spend to it? If you put 6 ads into an ad set, it spends a little bit on all of them, picks one, cranks that up, all the spend goes to that ad. your ROAS might not be there, your CPCs might not be there, your CTRs might not be there, your hook rates might not be there, your hold rates might not be there. But there's a reason why Meta is distributing spend to that ad over the other ones. And so that is a signal in itself. And that is a KPI that you need to actually consider. Why did Meta put so much spend into that ad? It's showing a high probability of high conversion rates in combination with high CTRs. Meta at least believes it will. And so you need to at least look at that with some kind of relevancy. Like, are we going to retest this in Advantage Plus if the core KPIs aren't in place? Or can we look at some back-end metrics to make sure, okay, this, what's driving tons of traffic, is it converting? Because there might just be under attribution in the platform. You want to have ROAS adjusted. You want to have CPCs. Like, you want to be choosing core KPIs that are going to line up with your methodology of testing within the account and then ultimately stack up to better financial outcomes. And then lastly, and this is the most important one in conjunction with our tests being run, is are enough tests being ran in proportion to spend. So if you're spending $2,000 a month and you're running 5 tests a month, yeah, probably makes sense. I would probably not, you physically can't test more than like 20 to 30 things at that kind of spend level. And so you're probably sitting in around about the right range. But if you're spending $100,000 a month on ads, and you're only doing 5 tests, not testing anywhere near enough. And so you also need to come to some conclusion of, well, like, how to test scale with spend, where do you sit, and then go from there. For those e-com brands that are just like self-auditing right now, and they don't really know the answers to these questions, well, number one, use a rigid testing structure that we recommend in our videos. ABO, test at the ad set level, creative tests. What KPIs to use? ROAS, CPCs. And are enough tests being run in proportion to spend? Literally take your advertising spend times by 70%, call that your testing budget to new assets, and then divide it by your average order value times 3, in brackets, average order value times 3. And that will tell you how many tests roughly you could introduce into the account per month. That'll give you a rough basis. The answer generally, though, for 99% of people watching this is the answer is no, you are not running enough tests. Nowhere near enough tests. And then lastly, before we move on to the next one, is what are you actually even testing? Like, I audit accounts all the time where I go in, I see a testing campaign, ABO, and I go, oh, fantastic. These guys are already doing all the basics right. And then I go in there and it's just tests of either copy changes or interest changes, like interest targeting. I'm like, well, this isn't going to move the needle, right? Like, split testing interest targeting is not going to double your account. Split testing copy variations is not going to double your account, unless for 2 to 3% of cases it will, but for 97% of people watching this, it will not double your account. What will double your account is finding a creative that can hold $1,000 a day in spend. So that's where I would focus your testing framework, not on these other factors. Step number 4, creative analysis. Pareto's principle applies to every account, which is that 20% of ads are going to generate 80% of the results, 80% of the revenue. So look at those ads and ask yourself, what drove the results and how do we replicate that? What are the similarities that lie in these top performing ads? And generally, there always will be commonalities on high performers. There will also be commonalities on low performers. And so go into your ad account, and the easiest way to just do this is sort by spend all time and just look at your top 5 spending ads ever. You can use spend as a proxy for performance because you wouldn't have spent on those ads if they weren't generating results. So look at them and then go and look at your bottom 20 spending ads that probably only spent between like $20 to maybe $1,000. And look at the similarities between all of them. I guarantee you can draw correlation between top performing ads and low performing ads. And then moving forward in time, stop doing the low performing stuff and start doing more of the high performing stuff. Now, you'll never be able to beat Pareto's principle, by the way. And so you can go and just re-emulate all of these top performing ads. And still 80% of these won't work. And 20% will drive all the results. But the idea here is that the 80% that don't work at least perform better than the 80% that don't work that you're currently launching. So it's not about the maximum amount of revenue that you can generate from the top performers, but it's about the maximum amount of revenue you can generate from the low performers. The low performing ads, rather than introducing them and they only make you $200 in revenue, now your low performing ads make you $500 in revenue. And so it's not as impactful, negatively impactful to your bottom line to have tons of testing, because even the low performers, yeah, they don't really make an impact, but they at least pay for themselves. Whereas right now, your low performers probably aren't even paying for themselves. In fact, they're probably driving heavy negative profit contribution into the business. And I'll give you an example of this, which is that we just did an audit and actually onboarded this brand about a month ago. And we found that 80% of their results came from 2 ads historically ever. And there were 2 partnership ads, which is where you take an influencer account and you run it in collaboration. You've probably seen Temu do this bunch. They were crushing it. CPCs were 10x lower than everything else. They had the most spend in the account ever. And the crazy thing was this brand hadn't run any partnership ads in the last 4 months. And so we looked at that and we went, why don't we just relaunch those? And so we did. Last week, we relaunched them, and they have CPCs 10x lower than anything else in the account, and a ROAS 3x higher, just like that. The account has almost doubled in performance just by looking at what worked historically, going, well, those partnership ads seem to be the things that were driving most revenue. Let's do some more of them, and then we're off. And so now the idea is, well, let's just do a bunch more of that. Let's stop trying to launch a bunch of statics and video variations, and let's just go out to influencers and try to get as many collaborations as we can and run it through partnership ads, because they have insanely low CPMs, insanely low CPCs, and are actually driving really good results. And step number 5 is landing page analysis. Really underrated, and that's why I wanted to put it in here. Let me move myself up. Check conversion rates by landing page on Shopify and correlate that to your meta ads. This is something people, I don't think, do anywhere near enough, which is that if you're running 6 different ads going to 6 different products and you're driving spend through all of them, you want to monitor conversion rates on those individual product pages on the back end, because you might find that one particular product has a really high conversion rate. Now, the attribution in platform gets obfuscated because there's multiple different touch points across the account. And so attribution of that purchase, just, you don't even know where it's going to end up. It might not end up on that exact ad on that exact product. But the reality is that if you drive traffic to this landing page, you get better conversion rates than driving it to another landing page. What you'll end up finding most of the time, and we've seen this consistently across the board, is that we'll have 2 separate products that we're driving traffic to, and one will have a worse ROAS in platform, one will have a better, and so we'll logically want to put more spend into the higher return on ad spend product. But when we look at back-end product page conversion rates, the lower ROAS product actually has significantly better conversion rates, maybe 1 to 2% higher. And so when you just run the basic math of, okay, average CPCs is this, we know the conversion rates on this landing page is this, therefore CPA equals $30, $40. It actually makes, the math makes more sense to drive the lower ROAS product than it does the higher one if we just ignore attribution for a setting and we just look at CPCs and conversion rates on landing page. And so then you run a test and you crank up the one with the lower ROAS and you just monitor like a hawk conversion rates on the back end, because you want to make sure they don't dip as we're just driving low quality, potentially low quality traffic. And then they don't. And then you actually see MER maintains or even improves, and then you can unlock scale, because just attribution can be flawed when you're just trying to make small ROAS discernments at a product level. And so looking at landing page conversion rates and correlating that to meta ads is actually incredibly critical, and it allows you to unlock a lot of scale. Are you driving to the highest performing lander? Generally ignore homepages. Homepages have really high conversion rates because people come through organic or they come through emails. And so it looks like it has high conversion rates, but that's just skewed because warm, high intent traffic goes to the homepage. So don't take homepage conversion rates into account. Is your add to cart to initiate checkout to purchase ratio a 4:1? If not, troubleshoot it. Okay, it needs to be a 4:1. If it's not, something's wrong that you can fix. I'm not going to tell you how to fix it in this video because it's like 60 minutes of probably content in itself. But it's pretty easy. Just go watch as much conversion rate content as you can on fixing add to cart, initiate checkout to purchase ratios, and you'll fix it. Like you'll get to the bottom of it. You could even probably just drop screenshots of that process as a consumer walks through it, and then give it to ChatGPT or Claude or Grok or something, and just say, "Hey, troubleshoot this. Where could I improve?" And you could probably get some insights there. And then lastly, is there continuity between your top performing ad messaging and the landing page? This is absolutely critical. And this actually ties back into the previous point, which is that you might look at the top performing ads and the low performing ads, and you might find that, in all the top performing ads, we have this messaging around this particular value proposition. Like we're talking about how the shampoo is really good for post coloring. Like when you get your hair colored, this is the shampoo that you should use. Okay. All those ads work really well, and everything else, all the other messaging, all the other angles that we're spinning aren't working. Okay. So we should just do more of this. But the reason why that angle is working might not actually have anything to do with the ads. It might be completely due to the fact that the landing page, at the very top, you are saying that value proposition again. Hey, massive tick or whatever the icon is, 5-star rated shampoo for post coloring. And so people see the ad messaging, they land on the landing page, there's continuity in the messaging, and it increases conversion rates substantially. And that's what makes those ads perform. It's got nothing to do with the actual front-end messaging of the ad. It has everything to do with the continuity on the actual landing page. And so you do want to make sure that if you're going to go and test a bunch of different angles, and I audited an account the other day that was doing an incredible job at this, is that they run 5 to 6 different angle tests per week. And for those angles, they have dedicated landing pages for all of them. Because the change in angle is so severe in what they test, it's like a supplement product. And so they can go really wildly out there and make crazy claims if they want to. I don't advise it, but they can. And so if they're going to go and make this crazy claim of like, hey, this will make you run faster. And so that's the angle that they're trying to crack into. You want to make sure that you drive those people to a landing page that says, this is the supplement that makes you run faster. Here's all the studies that prove it. Because if you then just drive to your generic PDP that says, yeah, so it has this benefit, and there's like 20 different benefits there, then people are going to go, this is just like a generic supplement, like an omega-3 that it isn't specified to what I thought it was on the front end. Okay, downs. Conversion rates increase substantially if you have that continuity in the value prop of the messaging that you're pushing. And so that in itself is a huge unlock for most e-com brands. Most e-com brands aren't doing this anywhere near to the degree that they should. And I say that myself as well. I don't think we do this anywhere near enough too. This is something that we need to focus on more. And that's why I've put it in here as step 5. To recap, attribution windows, make sure you're using 7-day click. Number 2, set up your audience segments and exclusions. Number 3, have a testing methodology that makes sense, that you can steelman with KPIs in place, and generally speaking, just increase the amount of tests that you're running. Number 4, do that creative analysis piece. Pareto as a principle applies into every ad account I have ever seen. Look at the top performers, look at the low performers. What can you replicate moving forward? And then do a landing page analysis. Look at conversion rates on the back end at a landing page conversion rate level. Are you driving on the highest performing lander? Is your funnel drop off a 4-to-1 ratio? And is there continuity on your top performing ads and the landing page?